Welcome back to Berry Life, bringing you easy and delicious vegan and vegetarian recipes from around the world. Today we're making one of my wife's favorite dishes, mushroom risotto. It may seem a bit complicated at first, but trust me when I say it's actually one of the easiest dishes to make, because of how forgiving it is. We're going to break it down step by step and provide helpful tips along the way. So with the right ingredients and a little bit of technique, you too can make this delicious dish at home. Let's get started. For this mushroom risotto, we'll start with a variety of dried mushrooms. We have portobello, shiitake, oyster, and porcini. We dehydrated these at home. However, if you get them at the store, be sure to rinse them off before using to remove any residual dirt. We'll transfer these to a large measuring cup and soak them in 2 cups of hot water from our trusty electric kettle. If you're using fresh mushrooms, you can go ahead and skip this step. We'll set these aside to soak for 20 to 30 minutes. Next, we have a couple of cloves of garlic. For this, we'll go with a mince. A few close slices one way, and a couple of slices down the middle. Then, cross-cut to tiny pieces. Or you can go with a rocking chop, whatever works. Garlic is an optional ingredient for risotto, and it plays second fiddle to our next ingredient, the shallot, which is a primary aromatic for risotto. We prefer the shallot over the onion because it has a milder taste and it just melts into the risotto when finely chopped, which is what we'll be doing. Here we'll go with a brunoise cut, which is really fine dice. For this cut, it helps to have a sharp knife. Shallots are generally more expensive and less available than onions because they require a specific environment to grow and are more susceptible to pests and disease. If you can't find shallots, just go ahead and use an onion. With this one shallot, we'll get about 1/4 cup. And lastly, we have some parsley. We'll chop off the stems and ball it up tightly, making it easier to cut. We love parsley for a citrusy taste, which balances the creamy, buttery richness of the risotto. We'll only add it towards the end of the cooking process, so it retains this freshness. With the vegetables out of the way, we'll go back to our mushrooms. Here we remove the mushrooms from the water, making sure to squeeze out as much of the liquid as possible, and strain the liquid. There's about 1 cup of liquid remaining. For the mushrooms, we'll go with a small dice, so they mix evenly with the rice during the cooking process, and in the final product. But we'll leave a few shiitake into strips so they stand out more, just for aesthetics. The point is to have fun, and make it the way you want it. With all the prep done, we can move on to the stove. In a pan over medium-low heat, we'll add 2 tablespoons of butter. You can go with salted or unsalted, it's up to you. We're using unsalted. To it, we'll add our chopped shallots and saute for about 3 to 4 minutes, or until translucent. Butter and shallots just make an amazing combo. Next, we'll add our mushrooms and cook those until tender. Should take about 2 to 3 minutes. Then add in the minced garlic and cook for about 30 to 60 seconds or until fragrant. Then next we add 1 cup of arborio rice. This is a high starch content rice and a must for risotto. We'll toast the rice until there is slight browning on the surface. Usually takes about 2 to 4 minutes. Toasting the rice creates a protective layer around each grain, allowing it to absorb liquid slowly and evenly without losing its firmness, creating a consistent texture. Usually at this point in the recipe, we pour ourselves a glass of vino. Here's to the new year. Cheers everyone. Then add about 1 cup to the pan to deglaze. This picks up those tasty bits of fond that's formed at the bottom. Adding wine is an optional step, but it does add a nice acidity that counters the richness of the risotto. We'll give it a little stir and let the wine reduce. When a recipe calls for wine, you don't need a specific cooking wine, unless it's seasoned. Today we're using a Sauvignon Blanc. If it's good enough to drink, it's good enough to cook with. With the wine reduced, we'll add a little bit of our hot vegetable and mushroom broth. and continuously stir until all the liquid is absorbed, before adding more. It's very important that the broth be hot, so it absorbs better into the rice and softens it to release the starch. We're going to need about 4 to 5 cups of liquid. The first 3 cups will be a combination of the mushroom soaking liquid plus 2 cups of vegetable broth. Then we'll add water as needed. Since our broth contains salt, if we use more broth, it will increase the concentration of salt. That's why we use a combination of broth and water. Unlike other rice recipes, the amount of liquid to cook risotto is not fixed, but it does require a minimum of 3 cups. We'll also throw in some fresh thyme. It has a crisp, minty, citrusy taste that cuts through the savoriness of the risotto. Then continue adding more liquid and stirring. Always stirring. The amount of liquid it takes depends on a few factors: the amount of rice, the shape and size of the pan you're cooking in, and the temperature of the stove. The wider the pan, the more the water evaporates, and the rice is spread out in a thinner layer. That's the case with this hybrid pan we are using. If we use a traditional saucepan that's a little small with straight edges on the side, the rice will stack higher in the pan and trap in more steam and cook faster, and require less liquid. Also, unlike other rice dishes, you shouldn't cover the risotto. The goal is to cook it low and slow and stir, so it can release the starch into the liquid, creating its own sauce as it cooks. When done, the rice should be al dente, so it should be slightly firm to the bite, but still creamy. At this point, we can check for seasoning as well. This is perfect for us, but you could add salt or black pepper as needed. Now we'll turn off the heat and give it a finishing touch by adding 2 tablespoons of cold butter and a cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. The residual heat from the risotto should be enough to melt the butter and the cheese. This will create a sauce, as you're emulsifying the starch and the butter together to create a velvety, light and fluffy risotto. The reason you use cold butter is that it melts slowly, and as you stir it, it creates a whipping effect. Do you know the name of the Greek philosopher that loved rice? Risotto. Once mixed, we'll add in some parsley. There, it's ready to be served. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more great content. And visit us at berryberrylife.com for more great recipe ideas. Also, check out the description box for the full written recipe. Oh man, this looks amazing. Now we'll garnish it with a little bit more parsley and a bit more Parmesan. Who am I kidding? A lot more Parmesan. Let's make it rain. There you have it. Mushroom risotto. A taste of Italy right in the comfort of your own kitchen. Thank you for watching. Enjoy!